Hello everybody, welcome to Shrewd Archery. Anthony here. Are you possibly looking for a stabilizer that's not only going to be able to put you on an Olympic podium and win you a 3D event all at the same time? Well, the Shrewd RevX might be that all-around stabilizer for you. Stay tuned and find out in my review of the RevX in this video. So to start off, I was not paid for in any way to give you my opinion on this. This is strictly my opinion. I wasn't told what to say or how to say it. I'm just telling you what I've experienced using this product during the time that I've had it and been able to shoot with it. So with that out of the way, I have been shooting the RevX here on my Olympic Recurve. This is the Hoyt Formula XI, and I've had a great experience shooting with it so far. I'm going to go and share with you that experience. I'm also going to be talking about the look, the feel, the characteristics, and the build quality of this stabilizer. So I'll be going through each of them during this video. Before we get started on that though, just a few little things that are going on here. I did use it with the Atlas V-Bar and the RevX extension, so all Shrewd products on this, and I am using the older Revell weights on there, but I do have a reasoning behind that. The new weights are fantastic that come with the RevX, but for me it was just easier, more convenient, and well, just the fact that I already had the weight setup dialed in from shooting the Revell, it was easy just to add them to the RevX and just be really comfortable right off the bat. Now, for the build and look of the Shrewd RevX. Looking at it right away, you notice it's got a really nice matte finish. A lot of other stabilizers have, stuck with the gloss. Shrewd, they're testing out the matte look, and I have to say, it is a very attractive stabilizer. It looks good with the matte finish on the carbon and on the end caps here. The end caps themselves are actually made out of metal, so no plastic to play with, so that means they're strong and durable, and yeah, there's a little bit of weight to them, but at least you know they're solid. And since they are so long, they should provide plenty of contact with the rod so that the two pieces stay together, when they are assembled. Other than that, I do want to touch on the weights. Yes, the ones I'm holding here are the older Revell weights, but again, even the new ones, I'm not having any issues with rusting. They're solid, they're well made. The cool thing though about the new weights, since they interchange the stainless steel and tungsten, you get both. You actually get a denser amount of weight. You can put more weight in a smaller area. I could easily put the new RevX weights in almost half the space as the weights I have on the front of my rod here, just because they stack so much better, and the tungsten, because of how dense it is and how heavy it is, it lets you put more weight in a smaller space, which is going to be better because then you can concentrate it in a particular area on your stabilizer. But it is nice to see that the weights do not rust, because there are other companies out there that don't do a good job on that. And for me, living right by the Atlantic Ocean, things rust really quickly if they're not made quality and not made out of quality materials. So it was nice to see that that didn't happen with these. Moving further down, you notice that we have a dampener here. The cool thing is it's also adjustable, because you can move it to other portions of your stabilizer, and that's going to provide some change in how the feel of the stabilizers are. It's not very noticeable, but for me, I do like them closer to the ends, and maybe that's something to do with the fact that we're used to having all of our dampening at the very ends, all the way out there. But for me, my favorite spot is putting the movable dampeners at the end of my front rod and at the very ends of my side rods. Another thing that is quite surprising with this stabilizer is if we go and unscrew the weights up top, Shrewd ships you with an unbelievably long screw. Now, yes, if you're disassembling, this could be a pain in the butt. But if you're somebody that stacks a lot of weights onto your stabilizer, especially you guys, you compound shooters out there, that have like 2 pounds on your bow of just weights, this long threaded rod here is perfect for stacking all of your weights onto it without having to try to mix and match in between different rod lengths to make it all work. It makes it a lot less of a hassle. For me as an Olympic recurve shooter, honestly, I don't shoot that much weight on my stabilizer, so there's a bit of a process to screw it in and out. But then again, how often am I changing out my weights and stuff? So it's really cool that they thought ahead, especially for the compound division. But at the same time, it is an interesting predicament to be in as a recurve shooter. But I can still appreciate their thought of looking out for you, even though they don't know how much weight you're going to run on your stabilizer rod. So now I want to get into the characteristics of the RevX stabilizer system here, because it definitely has a few that make it shine in a different light than its other Shrewd counterparts like the Revell that I've shot previously. The RevX is definitely stiffer than the Revell in my experience, and I actually went into measuring the stiffness of the stabilizer rods. Now I did this actually with the help of Josh Smith. He actually runs ramrods, and they do stabilizer stiffness testing for their rods. I asked if I could adopt the way they do their stiffness testing and apply it to other brands, and he was like, cool. So my numbers may not exactly match their setup because I'm still refining how I'm measuring the stabilizer stiffness, but the numbers I'm giving you are all tested on the same machine at my house, and they were all tested on the same day, basically in the same 1 hour window, and nothing changed. So don't compare them yet to other brands of stabilizers, because I have not really totally refined my measurement process, but these numbers are accurate in terms of the other ones that I have tested here. Hopefully that makes sense. Just don't compare these to others just yet. What I did was, via Josh's recommendations on how they test, I took my stabilizer rod off, removed the dampener, removed the front dampeners, and then I placed them on a table with a hole in it, and I put blocks that were 26 inches apart. So there's 26 inches of space in between. I then had a measuring device that was on the center of this rod, and I had a weight hang down from the middle of this rod, a 25-pound weight. And then I measured the difference from the stabilizer rod from not being under tension to it being under 25 pounds of tension, and I took the difference. So this is what I got. The RevX came in at 0.725, which I thought, all right, cool, but how does that relate to other stabilizers I own? Now I'm starting to think in terms of arrow stiffness, and stabilizers are kind of like an arrow, especially since they're making a lot of them out of carbon now. But still, how does this relate? So I figured I needed to get a lighter stabilizer rod, one that was probably going to be weaker, and another one that was going to be stiffer. So with that, I used the Shrewd Revell stabilizer, which from switching from it to the RevX, I noticed right away that the RevX was definitely a stiffer rod. So I figured, well, the Revell should show up weaker than the RevX, and it did. It showed up at 0.975. So the higher the number, the weaker it is. So that kind of put that in place. So then I thought, okay, time to do a stabilizer rod that, it might be thicker, but it's got to be stiffer than the RevX, just so that I can get a kind of a feel of where this stabilizer rod is sitting in the stabilizer selection that I have at my house here. So I broke out a Doinker Platinum and measured that the same way I measured the last two, and the number I got was 0.4 .450, so 0.450, which is, again, significantly stiffer and a lower number than both the Revell and the RevX. And when you shoot the Platinum, it is definitely a stiffer rod. It screams compound all the way, all the way to the bank, every dollar, unless you shoot a ton of weight as a recurve shooter, which then really, I don't want to say convinced me, but it definitely reasserted my, my feelings, my experience with this rod of it being nicely well-rounded, and I can see how Shrewd is saying that it's great for both Olympic recurve and compound, either that being target compound or, well, 3D compound. I can see why this rod would be great for all of those, because it's right in the middle. It's not as weak as the Revell, not that that's a bad thing, but it's also not as stiff as a Platinum, so it's kind of a sweet spot for recurve and compound. Another defining characteristic of this stabilizer is the internal dampening. Yes, they actually have internal dampening all the way through this rod, and they even have a tapered carbon design on the inside to help distribute weight and cut out weight where it's not needed. It's really intelligently designed, but it also makes this super quiet. So we'll take this off. There shouldn't be too much else that jiggles, but honestly, super quiet. Hopefully the neighbors will stop and we can listen. Really quiet. And that's impressive because for other stabilizer rods, they do jiggle a lot. Yes, I understand, Anthony, you got a whole bunch of dampeners on them. Yes, I do, but normally, well, besides this little extra one here that makes a little difference, but not everything, I would have normally ran the same dampeners. But having a dampener already built inside the rod here, you're not only getting that structure, but you're getting a free dampener basically out of it, because it's space that you couldn't utilize otherwise. So Shrewd is taking care of you and making your stabilizer rod not only stiff, but also dampened. And that is a nice use of the space that you could previously not use if the company you purchased your stabilizer rods from did not have internally dampened rods. Now, a lot of this is due to the fact that Shrewd is using the STS carbon. It's a big step in a better direction than just everybody's generic high modulus carbon. Depending on how it's weaved and things like that, you get it's not really always a result that's designed for archery or archery stabilization. It could be good in some directions, not good in others. The STS carbon is a more archery designed carbon, and again, that's adding to the benefits. It's providing that structure so you can get a thinner rod that's still stiff, because previously you couldn't get a rod this thin and actually have it stiff. Yes, this rod here is a little bit thicker than the Revell, but it's also much stiffer than the Revell. And I personally don't own another stabilizer of this thickness that is this stiff. They're all weaker, and that's going to be in part because of the STS carbon. And then you're filling that carbon on the inside up with a dampening material that's still going to provide a little bit of structure too. So you got the two working together, and I think you're getting a more well-rounded product. The last two things I want to touch on are the weights and the movable dampeners. The weights, I do like the tungsten weights, but again, as I said in the beginning, it was honestly just more convenient for me to just put on the weights that were on my Revell. So next up, the movable dampeners. They're pretty cool because you can, as I said, you can move them all over the stabilizer. I tried them all the way in the back, right at the base of both the side rods and the front rod. It was interesting. I tried them in the middle. That was also interesting. But for me, the front, as far out as I could go, was definitely the best. And it's a really stretchy material here. And it does a pretty good job of staying put on the rod itself. I personally have not had an issue with them sliding down, unless I really bump into something. But it's a pretty cool design, and from my understanding, I may be wrong, but I believe this rubber material is also what is put inside the RevX as well. So you kind of get a look at what's also going on inside your stabilizer. But they do dampen minimally. But then again, it's just something that you can play with, find where you like it. If you don't want to deal with it at all, you can easily take it off, and there will be minimum effects to the performance of this stabilizer. I mean, you'll get a little bit more vibration. It's going to be barely noticeable. It will be there, because you will notice it a little bit, but you could easily get used to it. It's not going to make this stabilizer setup unusable by any means. But it's cool that they put that in there just to give you different options on how to customize the feeling and setup of your stabilizer. Alright, so that is my review and experience with the Shrewd RevX. I'll have links to Shrewd's website where you can pick them up, and links to some other places where you can get pricing and things as well. I definitely recommend you checking out Shrewd's site, seeing what they have to say about their product, because they're going to give you their thoughts and why they engineer things a certain way. I'm giving you my thoughts on how what they engineered works for me and how I've seen it perform. So you can get a more complete picture by checking out their website as the manufacturer. Also check out their social media. They're always putting up things on their stabilizers and other products. So I'll have a link to that in the description down below as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you watching. Other than that, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, and as always, happy shooting.